Today, I feel like being one of those YouTubers who flex their gaming knowledge by speaking on something niche that hardly anyone else does. Only in this instance, there'll be a personal fondness given how it's a game I grew up with. I'll always find it weird how the primary pillar of such a gargantuan franchise like Pokemon, being the games, are handled by such a niche developer like Gamefreak. The hell is a Gamefreak? Gamefreak are the Pokemon guys. That is undeniably what they're most known for, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that reputation would get them way further than it does. It doesn't. Sure, Gamefreak are most known for their work on the Pokemon series, but in many cases it's honestly all they're known for. Every Pokemon game developed by Gamefreak does numbers that so many other developers would kill for, but slap that same name on anything other than Pokemon and... good lord, it's worse than I thought. While I am more than curious as to why this is, it's not what I aim to address with this video. Instead, I plan on going over a game I've been playing since my childhood, with no idea it was by Gamefreak, a neat title that is quickly becoming one of, if not, my favorite NES game. I bet going into this video there's a number of people who think Pokemon Red and Blue were Gamefreak's first developed titles, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that. You'd also be wrong. Mendel Palace, released on the NES in 1986, nearly half a decade before Pokemon, is when Game first became a freak. A puzzle action game that I'm gonna do my best to explain the appeal of, because damn it, this game is good, man, and I want to see it come back in some way, shape, or form. You play as a boy whose girlfriend was kidnapped. There are apparently plot inconsistencies between the Japanese and American releases, but regardless, it's just about what you can expect with a game of its time. Girl taken, go get her back. And to that end, in this game you go from door to door committing mass genocide. Everyone in here needs to die, 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 everyone in here needs to die. You can tackle all of these in any order, but I recommend starting with the one you're already next to by default, as it's the one that introduces you to the game's mechanics best. Upon entering a palace, you're tasked with clearing out 10 floors. The game calls them rounds, but I beg to differ. How do you go about clearing these floors? Well, like I said, everyone in here needs to die. You go about flipping tiles, and by flipping a tile an enemy is on, they will be pushed backward. Shove them into a wall, and they Mega Man explode into oblivion. The primary objective is to clear the floor of all enemies, as that is the only way to progress the game. Additional to that, however, are these star tiles. Walk on them and you collect stars, which upon gathering 100 of give you an extra life, which, if you're anything like me, are gonna need. So, entering any given stage, there's always this dilemma of which to prioritize, because what I failed to mention this far is that there is a time limit. That time limit is never displayed, but take long enough and the music quickens in pace along with the enemies. Take longer than that and you just expire, so you can't dilly-dally. So, back to the dilemma I mentioned, there's always the choice of either to take out the enemies quickly before things get complicated, or nab the stars in preparation for future challenges. This is where the puzzle elements of the game can come into play. Should you aim to get every star in every level, you'll need to optimize a route to achieve that in a timely manner, planning your approach around the floor's layout and enemy placement. While some floors have all the stars right there in plain sight, others have them hidden in unflipped tiles which you'll then need to dedicate more time to flipping around and finding out. Even if you have no interest in getting the stars, the game's puzzle elements are more than prominent enough in just taking out the enemies, due to every type of enemy having their own movement behaviors. While some behaviors are as straightforward as simply following you, others can range from spinning about as they bounce off walls, leaving you to find an optimal position to start flipping, and then there's these guys. They jump. I don't like them very much for that. The early floors of the palaces are for getting you acclimated to the enemy behavioral patterns, and just as you begin thinking you got it all figured out, you're thrown into a layout that's just designed to ruin your run. Hey yo, what the f- Star tiles aren't the only ones to keep an eye out for. Additionally, there are tiles which give 5 extra seconds, or 1-ups, or score boosters. Neat little stuff like that, but let me talk about two of my favorites, the sun tile and these things. The latter is neat because when stepped on, it sends a shockwave to every and all tiles above, below, left, and right of it. I always find it so satisfying to rage the enemies just so, and then hitting that tile to see them all be swept away as planned. The sun tile does just about the same, minus the strategy. Step on the sun tile and every other tile of the stage will be flipped, and I'm sure you've guessed it, but every and all enemies on those tiles get wiped away as well, so it's always a good thing to see if you're only aiming to clear the floors quickly. With the general gameplay loop and mechanics covered, I now want to get into what makes the game appealing, because I really find it appealing. Like, I'm actually impressed with how appealing it is. Like, it is appealing. I mentioned that it's appealing, right? The controls are that good old simplicity of which is to be expected of a game from this time. Simply move with the D-pad and flip the tiles with either the A or B button. That simplicity makes the game newcomer friendly as hell and easy to pick up as a result. But while the controls are simple, the game makes up for that with the complexity of its puzzles, which are decided by the layout of the star tiles as well as the placement of enemies. But if I go any further into that, I'll literally end up repeating myself. So, music! Let's talk music, because this game has some grooves going for it. Sure, it might initially suck to get a game over, but the moment I reload into the map and hear that good old doot doot doot, I mean, I forget all about it. Hell yeah, let's get back in there. Damn it! Not only is this Game Freak's first developed game, but here from the beginning is the man himself, Junichi Masuda, providing his now iconic sound into these peppy tunes, some of which I swear belong right at home in a Gen 1 Pokemon game. I mean, don't these just sound like root themes? They're just root themes! Mendel Palace is a childhood game that I didn't even remember the name of until coincidentally hearing of it in a Did You Know gaming video. The same video where I learned it was not only a Game Freak developed game, but their first at that. I had the urge to revisit it since then, and I'm glad I did, as it reminded me of why boyhood me had enjoyed it so much as I did. I hold this game as one of, if not my favorite NES games, like I said before. Such an easy to pick up and difficult to master game that makes it impressively, and almost concerningly, addictive. I think this game deserves more attention, so I took a step in trying to make that happen. Head down to those comments and let's talk Mendel Palace. If you haven't given the game a shot yet, you literally can in the very browser you're likely watching this video in. So you have zero excuse. Play Mendel Palace or I will find you and flip every tile in your home until you pop. See you in the next one. A puzzle action game that I'm going to do my best to explain the appeal of because, damn it, this game is good, man, and I wanted to see it come back in some way, shape, or form. You play as a boy whose girlfriend was kidnapped. There are apparently plot inconsistencies between the Japanese and American releases, but regardless, it's just about what you can expect with a game of its time. Game taken? Oh my god.